We have two amazing presenters today with decades of knowledge between them. I'm going to let them introduce themselves when we get to their sections, but John is going to talk about different seating options and what's available for your vehicle. And then Heather is going to talk about what type of lifts are available to transport your scooters and wheelchairs. We've received some amazing pre-submitted questions when you've registered. Unfortunately, we can't get to them all. There was hundreds that were submitted, but having the beauty of 47 locations is we can have somebody locally reach out to you and get all your questions answered. And many of you may have already have received phone calls or emails to help answer those questions. If you do have questions throughout the webinar, you can submit them in the chat function. And if we have time, we will get to them. If we don't, we will definitely follow up after the fact and answer any questions you have. First, when we get started, we wanted to introduce this logo and this acronym NMEDA. NMEDA stands for the National Mobility Equipment Dealers Association. And why this is important for you, we are a group of dealers and manufacturers, and our #1 goal is to make and sell quality and safe products. We all abide by a set of standards, so you as a customer have peace of mind knowing that you're getting a reputable product and you're buying it from a reputable retail location. So I think John and Heather might mention it, so we just wanted to kind of give a little background of what United Access NMEDA is. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it off to John. He's going to introduce himself, and we're going to learn a lot about seating. John, take it away.
Thanks, Monique. Hello, everybody. My name is John Mazzidlo. I have been with United Access for a little over 5 years now, right here in sunny, beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona. We're almost getting to that time of year where the weather is getting to be perfect. So sorry if you're not around this area. I'm not rubbing it in. It's just amazing. Not only have I worked here for 5 years, I am also a customer, as it says. That is my brand new van right there. I just got it in the beginning of August. It's a Chrysler Pacifica. As you can see, I'm what is considered a C56 quadriplegic. So I use a manual wheelchair. It's a little tough to see it in that picture, but my wheelchair matches the color of my vehicle. So if you see me on the road, wave. So first, we're going to talk about different seating products that we have to offer, that we sell, we install, and we service. First, before we get too deep into it, we as mobility specialists like to do what's called a needs analysis. And some of the basic things are, we want to find what's best for you. You may come in with an idea of, this is what I think is best for me. I saw this online. I saw this on YouTube. I saw a picture of this. And you call and you say, hey, John, I want to get this for my vehicle. Okay, which is great. I'm glad you've done your research, but let's do what we call a needs analysis to find what I call is the best fit for you. Okay, and some of the things that we like to talk about is, what is your goal? Okay, I want to know what your life is like, what you're doing on a daily basis, where you're going, who you're going with. How long do you plan on using this product? Is it a short-term solution? Is it a long-term solution? And we'll always like to take into consideration, what is it, if this works for you now, is it going to be the best for you in 6 months, a year, 3 years, 5 years, and beyond? Because let's be honest, we all work hard for our money, and this stuff none of it's cheap, unfortunately. There's a lot of expense to this. And so I don't want anybody wasting their money on a product, what I call return on investment. If you think, something is the right product for you, but you're only going to need it for a year, you have to decide if you're going to get a long enough use out of it to justify the cost. and then most importantly, what is your function? Um, and how it applies to that particular seating device. Okay. Because some you just may not be able to functionally use it, and which is fine. And we can then just we'll find another solution. But we need to make sure, because the last thing we want to do is we want to make your life easier, not harder. And we also, on a day-to-day basis, I can attest, there's a lot that you have to, just for me to get to work every day, for me to get ready in the morning. So I don't want my mobility solution to be difficult as well. I want it to make my life easier, not harder. So the first thing are transfer boards, okay? These are a cost-effective solution that goes in non-converted vehicles, okay? They're real simple and easy to use. It's once again, once we discuss what I just brought up before, the needs analysis, it can be a great product, okay? The main things to keep in mind is when you're looking at your vehicle, like let's say a pickup truck versus a sedan, a car, okay? Obviously, the transfer heights are different. So we need to take into consideration, can you transfer that high? What type of transfer can you do? Because it only goes down to a certain level. This one happens to be called the Ascento seat or the XL seat, which gets mounted right on the inside of your driver's door or passenger door. And the board can go from the height of your actual seat, like where you sit in the driver's seat, and it can go down, but it can only go down to basically the frame of your vehicle. So you get that lift from if you're transferring in from the frame of your vehicle up, let's say 6 inches or maybe 8 inches up to the level of where it's even with the seat of your car. Very helpful, but you need to be able to know that you can do that functionally. There is a weight capacity, okay? And then you also have to take into consideration your mobility device. So like if you see in this picture here, this woman has a manual wheelchair, okay? So now once she gets into the vehicle, what does she do with it? I'm sure somebody who discussed this with her before she purchased it now has to break down take the wheels off on each side, uh, 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 fold the back of the frame down, and then bring it over her and put it in the passenger seat or the back seat. That is just something that you have to understand you're going to have to do every time you get in and out of the vehicle, which is fine, but it's just something that you want to know ahead of time. This can, oh, if you could go back one more. This could be, you most likely, if it's not a manual wheelchair, typically gets paired with a lift of some version. Okay. And Heather will discuss that with you afterwards. The next is called the Adapt Solutions Link Seat. Adapt Solutions is the vendor. The Link Seat is the product. Okay. So the features of the Link Seat, it can be put in the driver or passenger position or second row. Okay. Well, let's take a step back. As you can see in this picture, the seat comes completely out of the vehicle. So if you see in the top picture there, with the push of a button that's a corded pendant, this gentleman holds down the button and the chair starts to rotate out and then down, as you can see where he is positioned next to his manual wheelchair. Okay. So we program this chair depending on what vehicle you have and we program the chair in a direction, a path to travel. Okay. Um, so the weight capacity is right around 330 pounds for this. Okay. It can be installed in hundreds of vehicles, and that's not a lie. I mean, because varies from different years. vehicles, different models, and then different positions on different vehicles. What's unique about this seat is that it uses the original vehicle seat that you have in your vehicle, okay, or what we call OEM, original equipment manufacturer, okay. Installed, this is right around $15,000. It is quite labor intensive. It takes about a day and a half, depending on the vehicle, to install. Once again, it's very, very important to think about the function that you have, because you need to be able to transfer. It's, if you're going to be by yourself independently, obviously, you're going to need your height and your weight is a factor. This has about, like I said earlier, about 330-pound weight limit. And then you have to take into consideration what is available for your vehicle. Now, whenever I talk to somebody about this product, it's a fantastic product, okay? But please, please, please do not buy it until you consult with somebody like myself in your area, okay? I always tell people, I don't want to tell you what to buy, but I would like to be consulted on what you're going to buy. Because the last thing that you want to do is go to a dealer, no matter a regular car dealership, and purchase a vehicle and then call me and say, hey, John, I just bought ABC vehicle. I would like to put the link seat in it. And then my eyes might get widened on the phone because it's not going to happen. And I would hate, and then you have to go back to the dealer and say, take it back. And I'm not sure if they're going to take it back. So just call and, let's walk through it. And I can give you different options of the vehicles that it does work for and the positions that it works for. The next one is the Brawnability Tourney Evo and Orbit seats. So both of these are very similar to the Adapt Solutions Link seats. It can be put in the same positions, either front driver or passenger positions or second row, depending on the vehicle. It goes on, the Tourney Evo goes on a programmable that we program pathway, and it turns out of the vehicle and lowers down, okay? Once again, this can also be installed in hundreds of vehicles depending on the year, make, and model. The big difference between this seat and the Adapt Solutions Link seat is that it will be an aftermarket seat. Okay, so it's a whole new seat and seat base. So what we do when we talk with anybody who's interested in this is that I get the information, I have them email or text me a picture of their seat color so we can try to match it as close as we can. Well, I think I already said it is a programmable and pathway for it to travel, and the approximate cost is about $13,000. It's a little less, takes the same amount of time to install. Once again, just like the Link seat, you want to take into consideration your function, your height and weight, and what is, consult with us, work together to figure out what's the best vehicle that you're interested in. Okay. So the Tourney manual seat, it's just like it sounds like. It's manual versus with the push of a button. Okay. It follows, it turns out of the vehicle and lowers a little bit, but it doesn't lower much at all. It basically is the height of the vehicle. It's a really easy operation, simple to use, real dependable. Anytime when you, like a regular vehicle, whether it's adapted or not, there's a lot of moving parts. This being manual has less moving parts. So it tends to be a little more dependable because when you have more moving parts, there's a chance for it to break down. Okay. This one's a little more cost effective, being at about $5,500 installed. And the one thing that you will need with this one versus the Tourney Evo or the Link Seat, you will need to have somebody with you in order to operate it. The last one is my favorite actually, because this is what I use on a daily basis. Okay. This is what's called the 6-way transfer seat. This goes inside wheelchair accessible vehicles. As you can see, the reason why they call it a 6-way transfer seat is because it moves 6 different ways. The chair goes forwards and backwards, up and down, and left and right. And it can do that via 2 options or both you can have. There's what's called toggle switches. There's 3 toggle switches. Each of them move 2 different ways, or a corded pendant. Okay. And so actually, could you go back one, still Mo? One, there we go. There are 2 different heights as well that you can use. And so usually I always recommend somebody get the short height feature, because for people who are transferring, they typically always like to transfer going higher to lower versus going lower to higher. Okay. This can be done on the driver or passenger side in the front driver position or front passenger position. Okay. And the approximate cost installed is $6,000 roughly. And it takes about 5 to 6 hours depending on the type of wheelchair accessible vehicle that it is. And like I said earlier, there's a good picture on the top left there of it's a 6-button corded pendant. Okay. And on each button, it tells you left, right, up, down, forwards, backwards. And then on the right there, those are the 3 toggle switches. Now you can get it with both as well, but I usually do it based on somebody's function. So like, for example, I'm a quadriplegic. Okay. I cannot use the corded pendant like this person is using, where you can just hold it with one hand and the person has the dexterity to push a button. I need to use 2 hands. So it's tough for me to use. Plus, if I drop the corded pendant, that I have to try and reach for it. It's just not convenient for me. Now, if somebody like a paraplegic has full upper body function, they can easily grab it, use it with one hand. They have the dexterity to be able to push each button, and they typically prefer the corded pendant. I use the toggle switches, and all I have to do is reach down. And because I've been using it I've been in a wheelchair 20 years and driving for 18, I just can do it with my eyes closed with these toggle switches. I know where each toggle switch is and what each of them do. So it works fantastic.
Now we're going to hand it off to Heather on the clear opposite side of the country than Arizona. So Heather, take it away.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today. Great presentation, John. Yeah, I'm across the other side of the country in New York, although it is beautiful today here too. It's a sunny 78. It will get colder sooner. It's actually kind of warm for September, but we'll take it. We'll absolutely take it. I've been in the industry for almost 20 years now, and I guess you could say I was born into the industry. My father owned his own business since 1978, so it's always been a part of my life in one shape or form or another. And it is definitely where I belong. It's something that I love to do. And I look forward to giving you great information today. And if you need anything down the road, I'm happy to help then too. So I get to do the lifts for the scooters and the wheelchairs for vehicles. And I'll go over all different topics on these as well. An unoccupied lift is basically the lift that's going to lift into your vehicle without you sitting in it. Although I know at one point or time someone has tried to stay in the chair and fit in the trunk, and that just does not work. And it's very dangerous. But just like John was saying, we do needs assessment or analysis with our customers to make sure that whatever equipment we're going to provide for them works with what they can handle and what they need, what they can do, what their abilities are. That's really important. And so that's our job, to make sure that we've asked all the questions and provide you with the equipment that's going to work best for you. Basically, the lifts are designed depending on who they're for, whether it's an independent driver or someone who's just a caregiver and you're being a passenger only. That assessment comes into play with this as well, along with, a diagnosis and a prognosis for the person that is in the chair. We want to really suit your need right now and also down the road from now. A lot of times you may only need it for a short-term solution, or you want something that's going to last you a long time, but we can help you with that as well. Here are just a couple of our manufacturers and options that are DMETA certified. They are certified manufacturers, and we would be the certified installers of these products. So some of the ones we're going to show you today are Mobility Innovations, Bruno, and Harmar. There are others as well, and we would let you know about those items if something wasn't quite, square peg, round hole type of thing. We really try to fit you with something that's going to work with what you already have, so that we don't tell you, well, nothing's going to work, you have to go buy a new car. And we don't ever want to say that. So we will really do our best to find something that's going to work with both your scooter or your wheelchair and your vehicle. Some of the interior mounted lifts or the platform lifts, especially in my neck of the woods in the Northeast, staying out of the snow and the freezing cold. We want to keep our power chairs and scooters inside of the vehicle. The platform style lift, or what some refer to as a hybrid lift, are the easiest to use. Your dexterity doesn't have to be so complicated. You basically drive the chair or the scooter onto the platform. You have one pendant and you're pushing either up or down. This is another picture. It shows what you're going to drive your device onto the platform. You can get tie downs to come with it, but you also don't have to have them, because there's a barrier that would prevent that scooter or chair, if you had to stop quick or were in some sort of accident, it's going to keep it in the back end of the vehicle. And these fit in most minivans and some larger SUVs also. But that's going to be your simplest device to use. Like here it says on here too, it's going to keep it out of the elements. When you're traveling, if your chair costs $80,000, you definitely don't want it getting snow or rained on. Very easy drive on, drive off. You can still use your backup camera or any other rear safety devices that your vehicle might have standard. That third row is usually just stowed below the floor. It's not removed, so you still retain those even if you have like a lease vehicle. Most minivans, larger SUVs, you don't have to bend over at all. Again, it's the simplest and easiest to use of all the devices. An approximate cost, depending on where you are, is right around $5,000 installed. Another type of interior mount lift is going to be a hoist, or what they call like a boom arm style of lift. This definitely would require a little bit more dexterity, but sometimes people like these because they take up a little less interior room, and depending on how many passengers you have in your vehicle. But you would have to be able to bend over, hopefully have no dizziness issues, because this would not be a good solution for you. We don't want you to fall or injure yourself. That's why that assessment is key. And basically connect, a male receiver to a female receiver, make sure everything is good and secure so that you can lift it up and put it into your vehicle. They do have a lot of benefits as far as going inside of the vehicle. There are also ones that are weatherproofed, like for pickup trucks and stuff like that, so that an independent driver would be able to use one of these types of lifts and basically bring it down to where he can hook up the mount from where he's sitting in the driver position, and then bring the chair up and into the bed of the truck. Very user-friendly. A lot of times, depending on the manufacturer, it's anywhere from 300 to 450 pound capacity. Some will allow you to keep certain seating. Approximate cost is about $5,000 installed as well. Really depends on your area, what you're lifting to. A lot of times they make HD versions for heavier scooters and chairs too. They also make exterior scooter and wheelchair platform lifts, which are a lot more cost effective for people. So depending on how often you use it and if it works for your budget. We also, besides just regular cost, you can get financing on any of these things also. So that's an option too if you just don't have that money out of your pocket. These are the ones that go into your hitch. So your vehicle would have to have a hitch or be able to handle a hitch. The other thing we take into consideration is load capacity. And a lot of people, we like to educate them on what it may or may not do to, shocks or struts or anything related to, how it could, physically hurt your vehicle at all, or if it does at all. We like to go over all those details with you too. These lifts also have a swing away option so that you can still access your rear hatch or your back trunk space and still put your groceries back there or wherever you might need to put back there. These you would lock down a power chair. A lot of the scooter ones come with a automatic hold down arm. So it's basically squeezing the scooter to the platform on the lift itself and keeps it, very secure. Easy to operate, pretty inexpensive, transferable as long as the vehicle has a hitch from vehicle to vehicle, but it is exposed to any weather if you don't have the ability to put on a cover. So it's definitely something that you want to make sure it can also be properly locked down. We have had customers that didn't, no matter how many times we may have showed them or someone else hooked up for them, and they've lost their scooter or chair off the back of the lift. We definitely don't want anything like that to happen to you. Safety is really important. This particular lift is made for sedans. We have a lot of customers that, hey, I have to keep this vehicle forever, and what do you got that will work? This is one thing that works really, really well. It's pulling the chair or the scooter instead of all the weight carrying. Big difference between carrying weight and pulling weight. So this will work on most sedans. It's very secure and safe, very flexible with vehicles, and cost, and depending on what state you're in, is around $8,500 installed. Some states will require you to register as a trailer, so it really just depends on where you're located at. But this is the Bruno Chariot. It's a really good, neat little thing. Unlike a trailer, you don't have to steer it. It will the wheels actually oscillate so that they turn around just like your shopping cart would. So it just becomes an extension of the vehicle rather than something you're pulling and you have to worry about backing it in and knifing it or whatever the case is. Jackknife, that was the term. We also have mid-row lifts. So certain vehicles and certain applications, again, depending on the person's diagnosis, what it is that they're looking for, what solution works best for them, is a manual chair and a mid-row lift. So this product is Adapt Solutions. The seat that John had talked about, which is basically like a transfer board, and then a lift that would lift up the chair and into the vehicle. So this person is able to do everything themselves. But again, it doesn't allow for a lot of passengers depending on the configuration. So there are some limitations, and we would help you decide if that would be the best solution for what you have in your environment. Approximate cost for both of these put on together is about $8,500 installed. It's a good solution, but it doesn't work for everyone. And transferability is usually another question that comes into play. So that's something that we would discuss with you to make sure that this is going to fit your need now and 5-10 years from now. What is the best lift for me? It's definitely a combination of many things. And I love the customers that call and say, hey, I'm going to be buying this car, or my lease is up and I have to get into something else. What should I get? This is what I need to carry. Those are a dream when that happens, but we're not always that lucky, nor are they. But we really need to piece together everything. So a lot of times when someone calls and says, hey, this is my vehicle and I have a golden scooter, and I say, okay, I need the actual, make and, the exact model number, whatever you can give me, because if you look up, golden or a Pride product, there are probably thousands of different models, and then those models are made to fit that particular person. So it's really important that we put all the pieces together as well as possible so we get you something that's actually going to work for you individually. Then we have our occupied lifts. Some of these are not so common. I'm sure they're more common in the warmer climates, but I don't think we've ever put on, here in the Northeast anyways, one on the outside of an RV. However, we have done some inside ones, and that's something that we do. We can also lift the person like a Hoyer, Milford person lift. You have an occupied exterior mount lift, and then you have your occupied full size, which a lot of you are probably familiar with when medical transportation companies or even personal use types of setups. The platform style lifts are good for almost every full-size vehicle. So you have your Mercedes Sprinter, your Ram ProMaster, and your Ford Transit. There's some other ones too, depending. These can be positioned in the side or the rear, have a much larger weight capacity. Approximate cost is around $11, but we would work that with the customer because we also have to add special flooring, for the floor itself, lockdowns to lock down the chair, and then want to make sure that we're doing it so that you're accommodating as many passengers as you need in your vehicle. The RV lift, sorry, I had to sneeze. The RV lift can be installed on the exterior or the interior of an RV. There's different manufacturers of these also. We would discuss and take a lot of measurements and dimensions, and it's definitely where all the pieces of the puzzle have to fit together for this to work, because you're working in a very narrow amount of space, and something that's not, OEM that you can say, okay, we're going to mount it to this piece. So there's a lot of different things that have to come into play to make sure that we put this in safely. It can hold the weight. It's going to last as long as possible. So those are all key factors. Usually these cost around $7,500 installed. The Milford lift, now we've done these actually inside full-size vans too. You can do them in sedans, you can do them in regular vehicles, but rather than taking your Hoyer out of your house and bringing it everywhere with you, this basically takes the place of that. If the person, this is the only option that works for them. There's different sling types depending on dimensions of the person that it's lifting. It's definitely safe and comfortable transfers. Approximate cost on these are around $8,500 installed. Oh, financing options. I mentioned that earlier. We do offer financing. We are also happy to work with your dealership possibly or your own bank. We'll do whatever you need that makes life easier for you basically. Some other assistance programs we work with are state-run programs, Medicaid waiver programs, workers' comp, vocational rehab, and a lot of the VA also. So these are my pre-submitted questions. So we'll go over these here. So James asks, is a wheelchair lift versus a van with a ramp the only way a disabled person can load a wheelchair into the vehicle. And of course, the answer is no. There's lots of different ways that you can get somebody in and out of a vehicle, and that's where your specialist is really going to come into play to see what can the caregiver handle, or the person themselves, what are their abilities, what are the advantages and disadvantages. But there's usually always a solution, and we think outside the box too sometimes, which you have to do, all depending on the situation. Everyone is a little bit different. So it really is basically like customizing something that specifically works for you, your family, your vehicle, your needs, your chair, your scooter. Gary asked, can a person like a quadriplegic with a permeable F5 drive from a wheelchair in a full-size van like the Dodge Ford Mercedes using adaptive electronic mobility controls? So there really is only one manufacturer, and this would be more for someone who is a para, not a quad and not electronic controls, that can let you drive from your chair itself and not transfer. Paravan, who we are also a dealer for, but not every one of our locations, is the only one that makes modifications to the floor of the full-size vehicle in the front, because the floor is not flat, and would allow somebody to drive, but with mechanical controls, not electronic controls. Most electronic controls are high-tech devices. So a quad may use an electronic gas and brake, which is a throttle that's used forward and back, a servo type of steering, whereas essentially like if you were a DJ and you went to scratch a record, that's exactly kind of how they would steer the vehicle, with very little motion. So there's so much that has been done lately with technology. And I have some very great high functioning quadriplegics, and when you look in their vehicle, you'd think they were driving an airplane. It's so sophisticated sometimes, and our techs have to get hours and hours of specialty training at the facilities and be certified to do these types of modifications. But hopefully, if we have a quad that's looking to upfit a vehicle, hopefully they talk to us beforehand and we can tell them, knowing what their needs are, what vehicle they should get, and what would work best with the equipment that they need too. So sometimes we work a little backwards. It really just depends on the person. Melissa asks us, what do we see being the most helpful for caregivers when it comes to transportation? That's kind of an open-ended question, but a great question. It really depends on who the caregiver is. How many times do they have to get that person in and out of the vehicle? How many other people have to be in the vehicle when they're transporting? So it really depends on the caregiver's physical ability, along with what's going to make life the easiest for that whole situation, both for the person in the chair and for the caregiver. When it comes down to it, the biggest thing that we want to try and get for our customers is quality of life. If it's too much work to leave your house, if it's too hard and you have to transfer 5 times, then you're not going to leave your house if it's that exhausting. So the key is to really make life as easy as possible for the person in the chair and for the caregiver, so that they're out there living. That's the most important thing. Then Daniel asks, what are some options for carrying a scooter in a wheelchair in a 4-door sedan? So one of the things that we saw was the Bruno Chariot. So that would be a great way to carry it along in a sedan, because there's a lot of stuff that can't go on sedans just because of weight capacity, vehicles cantilevering or tipping over. We don't ever want that to happen. And also, do they have the ability to walk from the back of the car to the front of the car also? So that's a big factor too. Or do they have to break down their chair, put it over their lap? Can they break down their chair and put it in the door behind them? Not too many vehicles nowadays have what we call a suicide door. There's got to be a better term for that, a barn door or some type of door where they're opening up together, and you can just put something easily behind you. But again, it really depends on the ability of the person who needs the chair or the scooter. It's so specific to the person. So many different variables. That's why if you need help in your area, talking to a mobility specialist really makes all the difference in the world. You know, you're definitely not alone. We want to give you that hope, and we want to give you that independence back and get you out in the community and help you enjoy your life.
Oh, John and Heather, that was great content, great information. And what we want to reiterate too, that this is the start of a conversation. This is a very kind of generalized kind of webinar, but like John and Heather touched on a lot, it's really about your individual needs and goals. And that's our ultimate goal, is to have you ride around safely and in quality products.